Hey guys, welcome back. I'm back here looking at my DL1000 project, V-Strom 1000, and today I'm going to be replacing the clutch slave cylinder piston seals, because that seems to be where it's losing fluid, leaking out, and letting the clutch get soft and stop disengaging. I'm gonna basically pop this whole piston out and then pump the clutch. Hopefully that'll push the piston all the way out so that I can put the new seals in there. The last time I opened up or took this cylinder out, I followed the instructions and had the clutch taped or zip tied in so that it was disengaging, but today I'm gonna try without doing that and see how it goes. Alright, so let's see what happens as I press the clutch. Good, that's doing what I wanted. Just about there. All right, there goes all our fluid. And we've got the piston out. A little yucky looking under there. I'll clean that out as best I can. All right. All right, so I'm noting as I take this seal off that this side of the seal has a ridge on it, so the other side is flat. And that flat surface is going to go up against this metal here. I wish I had a hone and I would clean up that inner surface of the cylinder a little bit, but I do not, sadly. All right, y'all, I'm back. I went out and searched for a cylinder hone that was small enough for that piston cylinder there, and I couldn't find one. The only thing I found was for proper engine cylinders, which is much too big. So I'm gonna just try this little tool, which is just a piece of I think 600 or 400, 400 grit sandpaper, duct taped to a stout drill bit as a little one flapper wheel, and just see if I can make a dent. That has made a really big difference. It's much, much smoother to the touch now. Doesn't look that pretty, but I'm gonna call that good. I don't think that it took off much material. There's a little bit of scoring, but that's behind the seal part. And yeah, I'm not gonna push my luck on it. I don't wanna damage the housing here, the cylinder, but I'm much happier with that sealing surface now. So, time for the brake cleaner. Take my clean towel and just wipe that out. All right, so I've got my new seal here, and just compare. I mean, it's a crazy difference between the old seal and the new seal as far as that lip and how it's been just compressed down and pretty damaged. All right, nice. Seems to be a good fit. Just working that brake fluid all over the surfaces. Next is going to be the new spring. That just pops on that little stud there. And now the whole thing goes into the cylinder. Also going to do just a little bit of brake fluid around the edge of that cylinder as well. The wall, I should say. Obviously I'm using the brake fluid for the lube because that's the fluid that goes in here, so it'll fit right in. I've got a little hair on my glove. Let me get that out of the way. So I'm kind of working at a slight angle just to make sure that that seal doesn't get folded as it goes in. You want it to seat against the wall and not be folded. Just about there. Yep. I don't know if you could hear that. As I push that piston in, I can hear up in the master cylinder the fluid getting pushed back up through the line. And that's a good thing because that means you have a pretty good seal there, so it's pushing that fluid. Whatever fluid was left in the line, which wasn't too much. Probably hearing air bubbles more than fluid actually. So now that piston is fully pressed back into the cylinder and it's time to start reinstalling everything. And I'm going to fill up the reservoir with fluid and do a proper bleed. That's it. Yep. Alright, with my 5mm Allen, just a little pressure on it while turning backwards. You hear that click? I'm lined up with the threads. So you will avoid a lot of headache doing that in the future and not accidentally cross-threading bolts. Because when you cross-thread a bolt, it is a huge pain in the butt. So this is another piece that came with it, a new rubber cap in the kit. But honestly, this cap is in fine condition. There's no need to replace it in my case. I'm just going to leave it be. Alright. I'm going to shut the camera off and go searching for this bolt holding the speed sensor in. So I didn't find the bolt that I was looking for that speed sensor. I'm sure it'll turn up or it won't, we'll see. But luckily for me, I brought some spare hardware from home. This is M6, this is M5, and I've got, I think, the perfect little M5 screw. I would rather have a bolt head for it, but it's really fine. And so I can secure that speed sensor into place. I'll probably end up just leaving this there permanently, but if I do find the bolt, I'll swap it out. We'll see. Starting to get some brake fluid out now. Just gonna top off the fluid before we get too low there. We don't want to pull fresh air back into the system and have to start over again. Well, there's a little bit more air. We'll keep going. All right, I think we're about good. I'm just gonna top off the fluid here as level as possible and seal up the system. Clutch feels nice and firm. That's good. I'm going to clean up any brake fluid that made its way onto the painted surfaces in order to protect that paint. All right, job done. Next thing we're going to do is see how our battery held up over about a week and a half of very cold weather, not being plugged into the charger. When I last was out here, I ran the bike, warmed it up, gave it plenty of time for the battery to charge up itself. And so I'm curious how that has held up. It is about probably 35 to 40 degrees out. It's a little bit warmer here in the garage. Still got enough battery to turn the lights on. I'm in neutral, clutch in, I'm on the center stand. Prime that fuel pump. Beautiful. All right, we'll go ahead and let it warm all the way up. And in the meantime, I'm gonna take a little break. So once that bike is warmed up, I'll shut it off and do an oil change and a filter change. And at that point, I will be happy to put the plastics back on and the bike will be rideable, so I can get it home and do further diagnostics on it and see how the engine compression is and all that good stuff. So I'll check in a little bit. Got a 17 millimeter socket for this drain bolt. And the bike's nice and warm. That bolt's on there pretty good. All right, broke that free. Got my towel ready and my catch pin in place. The oil doesn't look too old. Pretty nice. But that's all right, we're gonna replace it anyway. There's a little bit of metallic grime on the magnet on the bolt here. Not too much. About what you'd expect, I'd say. I think I'm gonna use some pliers to get that old oil filter off because my hands are slippery. Let's see if this is big enough. I don't think so. My hands are slippery and we're not reusing that oil filter, so I don't care about damaging it. There we go. Yeah, that was on there pretty snug. Doesn't need to be that tight. So we'll give that a few minutes to just finish dripping out. All right, it's been about 5 to 10 minutes and it's still going. So I'm gonna give it some more time. I'd like to get all of that old oil out as much as possible. All right, so we're down to a very slow drip now. I'm happy with that. I'm gonna put the plug back in Ideally, you would put a new crush washer in. I don't have one, and I'm gonna reuse this. So it's a do as I say, not as I do situation. All right, before we put the new filter in, to make sure it's clean from all the debris, I'm gonna pour just a little bit of oil in there and work it around on that O-ring. Make a nice seal. A little much there, oops. Pretty much sacrificed my glove on that one. All right, I'm pretty happy with that. Time to add the new oil. All right, well, I know there's enough oil in there to safely start the bike. It's nicely between the lines, so I'm gonna do so. I'm not gonna run it for long, maybe 30 seconds or a minute. Just let it work that oil through the system and get the air out. If you're working in a garage and you're running a motorcycle, you definitely want to keep the bay door open. And ideally, this would be pointed tail out to put that exhaust fumes out, but there's plenty of airflow in here and I'm not gonna run it for long. So I'm gonna go ahead and shut it off now, so I don't have to keep breathing that exhaust. We're already above the low level line and it's only been 10 seconds, 15 seconds. So I'm sure that there's enough oil in there. All right guys, oil change is done. Clutch repair and bleed is done. So now I just need to work on cleaning up my mess, getting all the plastics put on the bike. I didn't need to take the front end off as much as I did to do the work that I was doing, but I kind of wanted to because some of what I did earlier had a lot of electrical wires and stuff going through there that I was removing, some aftermarket things, and I just wanted to get a better look at the bike. So I didn't mind doing the extra work of taking those plastics off. Plus, they helped me learn how they all assemble. So in the future, work will be easier up front. All right, y'all, check in a few. Okay, I've been busy for the last hour or so. Got all the plastics put back on the bike. Everything's cleaned up and I'm ready to roll. I'm not gonna roll today because I don't have a ride. I've got my car here and no trailer. So I'll be back another day. Also, there's a sheet of ice on the driveway, so I can't do anything with that. If I even try to push this out to the road, I would definitely dump it. So not today, not this weekend, because we got more snow coming, but she's ready to go, and I'm happy about that. I think it looks pretty good, especially for a 24-year-old motorcycle with 107,000 miles on it. Not too shabby. Could use a little wash, but again, not today. All right, guys, well, thank you for joining me, and I will keep you guys up to date as things develop with this. Have a great night.